How many of us have ever been to a jubilee, a celebration, a party? If so, you know the characteristics of that celebration: music, dancing, freedom, laughter, and frivolity. Everybody loves a good celebration. And why? Because we are the ones having the good time. We are the ones experiencing freedom. We are the ones enjoying ourselves and having fun. In short, we are the beneficiaries of the celebration. But now imagine, if you will, a gathering where others are the beneficiaries of the celebration and not you yourself. An event where others are experiencing freedom and blessings and benefits, but all at your expense. I ask you, are you able to have fun now? Are you able to rejoice and celebrate with them? If so, then you understand the generosity that God calls us believers to extend to others. Now, simply multiply that generosity 1,000-fold, and you will begin to understand the Israelite practice of Jubilee in the Old Testament. This celebration was more than a party. It was far more than a festival. It was beyond a bash. The celebration of Jubilee was a rip-roaring social and spiritual revolution every 50 years that set people free, that forgave debts, and restored possessions and dignity to individuals and whole classes of people. By comparison, it makes our civil rights movement of the 1960s look like child's play. Indeed, our attempts to bring equality and justice to our population pales in comparison to the mega geopolitical land shift that was Jubilee. Let me spell out the specifics for you. If you were a slave during Jubilee, you were set free, utterly and forever. No longer did you have to plow the land for someone else. No longer did you have to plant a vineyard for someone else or to bring in the harvest for someone else. You could no longer be compelled to dig a well for someone else, to water someone else's flock, or to wash someone else's feet. You were free, with no recriminations and no resentments or retaliation. Incredible and unbelievable, isn't it? Yet it's true. And that's not all. If in your poverty you had been forced to sell land that had belonged to you or to your family, in the year of Jubilee, that land had to be restored to you. No questions asked, no compensatory deal struck. It once again simply and surely belonged to you. In addition, all debts were forgiven, every single one of them. And one more thing, even the earth itself got into the act. There was to be no plowing or sowing in the year of Jubilee. The land remained fallow. No reaping was allowed. So, what was the purpose of all of these freedom rules? What good did it do to not plant, to set your slave free, to forgive others' debts, and to dispossess yourself of land that you had previously acquired or bought? Well, in addition to benefiting the land, the slave, the debtor, or the person whose land you'd been possessing, the Jubilee was also believed to benefit you. Even if you were the one forgiving, even if you were the one freeing. It taught and reminded you every 50 years that we are not what we own. We are not what we possess. We are not what we can produce or manufacture or control. Rather, we are God's people, simply and surely. And if God can give us freedom and influence and blessing, which God does, then we are required to give it to others also, even when it is inconvenient or, God forbid, detrimental to us. And this, incidentally, is where rejoicing in others' good fortune comes in. In fact, it's one of the hardest things in the world to do, I believe, because we're taught today more than ever before to look out for number one, to pay attention to our own self-interest, not so much the interests of others. You see, to rejoice when someone else is getting the benefits, to celebrate when someone else is receiving the blessings, to cheer when someone else is the beneficiary of God's abundance is so foreign to us today because we have been trained to put ourselves at the center and everybody else on the periphery. But my friends, God's kingdom flips all of that. Indeed, that's why Jesus got into so much trouble with the religious authorities of his day. Think about it. They were benefiting from the religious and political system that was then in place. But Jesus said, you're not supposed to benefit. Others are supposed to benefit. You shouldn't be seeking to get higher in status. You should be seeking always to go lower. Lower. To serve others. To rejoice with them. To celebrate with them. And knowing Jesus' insistence about such things throughout his ministry, it is surprising and shocking to me that I had never applied this idea of Jesus, to his parable of the lost coin until I sat down to prepare this sermon. Indeed, in that story that I read earlier, I had always focused on the woman who found the coin. Now she had money. Now she had relief. Now she had gratitude. But I had never seriously considered those who came over to her house to rejoice with her. I wonder, what were they sacrificing to do that? What were they giving up in order to celebrate with her? I mean, come on, they might have thought. It was only a single coin that she had lost. I've got to manage my household. I've got to put food on my table. I've got to pay my bills. I don't have time to party with someone so impoverished that she gets excited over a pittance such as that. Do I? But her friends didn't say such things. Her neighbors didn't harbor such thoughts. Instead, they put aside their own selfish concerns and realized that when someone else is rejoicing, we are called to rejoice with them. When someone else is suddenly set free from their poverty and their worry, we must celebrate their freedom with them. Otherwise, we are not truly free ourselves, and we are not wholly generous in our affections. And this further made me wonder if the real reason that Jesus had told this story wasn't in the end that perhaps it was actually his mother who had lost the coin. That perhaps it was Mary who had been running around the house worried, in search of money that she had misplaced or forgotten or lost, and that upon finding it, Jesus was eyewitness to his mother's friends putting aside what they had to do to come over to his house and rejoice with his mother. Indeed, what an impression that would have made on a young boy. But then, an even livelier possibility crossed my mind. An even more incredible image presented itself to me. What if Mary was not the finder of the money at all, but rather one of the friends in the story who heard the exultant cry of the finder? This compassionate neighbor, this merciful fellow traveler now turns to Jesus and says, "My son, I've got to go and rejoice with my sister next door, for she has found the coin she lost. For days she's been worried sick about it, and now she's been relieved of her worry. I must go and celebrate with her. I must go and remind her that her joys are mine. And I must reinforce to her how important her happiness is to me. But Mom, Jesus might have complained, I'm hungry. I have needs too. I need you. All those needs will be met, my son, when you learn to put others first, to consider them, to rejoice and be happy with them. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, Jesus later said, and to give his life a ransom for many. Yes, I wonder where Jesus first learned that, if not from his mother and from his family of origin. To be confident and selfless enough to trumpet the successes of others, to hail the benefits that other folks are receiving, to celebrate the joys that they are experiencing, even when your own needs are coming in second or third or last. How does one learn to live like that, if not from one's family and faith community? And what a blessing it turns out to be for others. Along that line, did I mention that the origin of the term Jubilee comes from the Hebrew word for ram's horn or trumpet? It makes sense. A Jubilee is where we trumpet others' successes, not our own. After all, if the trumpet is in our mouth, we can't be trumpeting our own. It has to be for others. It's where we proclaim others' achievements, not our own. A Jubilee is where we enthusiastically announce others' accomplishments and blessings, not primarily our own. Now, it may seem foreign to us. It may even seem downright strange, but jubilation is better when it's on others' behalf. It is more celebratory than when it is expressed for ourselves. Just scan quickly in your mind through Jesus' other parables, and you'll realize that this is always true. The parable of the lost sheep. The shepherd's friends and neighbors come over and celebrate with him that he's found the sheep. The parable of the prodigal son. That's celebration for someone else's successful return, not one's own. The parable of the sheep and the goats. Celebration based on service to others. And finally, the parable of the mustard seed. The seed becomes a great bush. Itself doesn't matter, but it's a place where the birds of the air can come and nest in its shade. Always, always for others. And the list goes on. Blessing others, benefiting others, rejoicing with others. That's where celebration is at its richest and most glorious. That's where jubilation is most fully found. So the next time you participate in a jubilee, and I think that one is coming in just a few minutes when we walk or dance our pledge cards down the aisle to the big basket here at the foot of the steps. The next time you engage in jubilee, ask yourself if it is for you or for others. If it is for yourself or for those whom you desire to serve fully. And if it is indeed for others, then my friends, hold nothing back. Hold nothing back. Celebrate loudly. Blow the trumpet. Herald the good tidings. Let your jubilation be complete, lacking in nothing. There's no fear. It's all a gift. Celebrate fully, for that is how God celebrates the blessings that come to us. God's joy is always on our behalf, so that we might know how to celebrate on others' behalf. So, be generous. Be jubilant. Amen.